All right, today is August 1st, 2025, and I'm here with Mother Jean Liddell, an active member of Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church of Westland, and a former member of First Missionary Baptist Church of Inkster, which is the congregation we will be discussing today. Mother Jean, before we get started, how are you feeling?
I feel pretty good.
That's good, that's good. So my first question is, since you were born into First Missionary Baptist Church, what are your earliest memories of the church?
Well, we had an education program, and we had Sunday school, Bible school, BYPU. And my daddy was a minister, so I had to go to everything. I had to stay at church 24/7. I was baptized there in 1943 by Reverend Meir.
Okay, so I remember you telling me that you were on the usher board with my grandma
Yes.
at First Baptist. Tell me a little bit about your experiences serving at First Baptist. Like, what were your duties on a typical Sunday?
Well, it was just ushering, and I've been ushering since I was 14, I think I was. And as I advanced from one age to another, I went to the other usher board. And it was collecting the office and keeping the kids quiet. And they always remind me when I see them, "You that usher that made me sit down." I say, "I'm that usher, and I'm going to make you sit down now."
And just to get personal for a moment, what was serving with my grandma like? By the time I had gotten old enough, Alzheimer's had pretty much.
Sit in.
Yes, and I never had a conversation with her. So how was she like, and what was it like serving with her?
She was fun. She was a lot of fun. We would go a lot of different places because we visited a lot of churches, and we would always be together. So she was a lot of fun.
Okay. What was a typical service like at First Baptist? Like, for a person who has never been to a service, how would you describe it?
It was a Baptist church, and it was long service because Sunday school started at 9, went to 11. The church started at 11 and went to about 12:30, quarter to 1. And it was just, then we had the choirs, and they sang and we ushered. It was fun.
Okay. Did the choir ever march in on Sundays?
Yes, they always marched in.
Okay.
Always.
Did First Baptist ever sing gospel music, or was it just hymnals?
They sung both.
Okay. What was the preaching style like of the pastors? Was it a very like a hooping and hollering type, or was it very, stern? Did people shout, things
They
like
shouted.
that? Okay.
Well, it was a mixture.
Okay.
It was a mixture of hooping and hollering and stern. Hey, stern. We enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Okay. What did the building / sanctuary of First Baptist Church look like? Like, describe it for me if you can picture it now. What is it?
Okay, it's a big building, and it still stands. On one side was the church. On the other side was the education center. And they had a daycare in there and a kitchen in the center. And then in the sanctuary was just wooden pews. And then the choir was up in the front. Just a standard big old church.
Okay.
And it still stands. I think the cornerstone stone may still be on there. Part of the church burned down. That was the educational center. Mm-hmm. But the sanctuary part is still there.
Okay. Was there like a balcony in the sanctuary?
Yes.
Okay. Did it have a basement, like a fellowship hall?
And that's where we had the daycare.
Okay.
And the kitchen.
Okay. Do you know why First Baptist was founded and when?
No.
Okay.
Because it was before I was born.
Oh, wow. Okay. I came across an article that said that First Baptist had over 600 members at one point. And from what I was reading, Reverend Butler and First Baptist seemed to be well known in Inkster, in the Metro Detroit area. Would you say that that's true? And if so, what do you think made him and the church so well known?
But the church was well known way before he came, because there had been two pastors before him. Uh, Reverend Merrick, which was the older one, which was the one that baptized me. Then it was, see who came next, Reverend Merrick, Reverend Butler. And it was really such a happy church when he came. So that because we were national known and we would travel all over. So that's how he became a well-known pastor.
Okay. What churches did First Baptist fellowship with frequently that you can remember?
All over. Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Wooleron, Detroit, Taylor. We went everywhere.
Okay. Any specific names you can think of, churches?
I can't think of them. There were so many of them.
Okay.
Second Baptist. And of course, Second Baptist in Inkster also. I'm trying to think of the one in Ann Arbor. I can't think of the one in Ann Arbor.
What programs or ministries at First Missionary Baptist Church stand out in your memory?
We had a big missionary society, and BYPU and Sunday school was very important to us during those days.
So I read somewhere that there used to be a credit union, First Baptist used to have, and of course a daycare. How did these initiatives get started, if you can remember, and how did they serve the community?
They were just through the pastor, how he wanted to do it, and that's how they started. And the daycare was really helpful because it took in all ages, and in the summertime, all the kids came. Uh, and it was 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Besides those social service initiatives and outreach things, what other things did First Baptist Church do for the community that you can remember?
Just being a part of it, we was the first church out here, and most everybody came to that church until two or three other churches popped up. So it was just a community church.
How did the church support families during hard times?
Well, we had a sinking fund that if anybody needed anything, but they just helped out. If someone came to the church and said they needed something, then they just gave it to them.
Okay. I read that Reverend Aaron Butler, he owned 2 gas stations that were in Detroit. I don't know if you knew that.
Never heard that before.
You never? Oh wow. Okay. Well, I guess you probably wouldn't know how to answer the rest of that. It's like, how did their business involvement affect the church or the Inkster community?
Not nothing. He had to, before he became pastor, before he came to First Baptist, he might have had something in Detroit, but.
Since I know that you played a role as the chairperson for a lot of anniversaries, what were anniversary services like?
Well, we mostly had them at the church, and they were fun because it gave us a chance to really dress up and be going. Very seldom we had it out. I think after Reverend Butler came, we had a couple of them out, but most of Reverend Walden and Reverend Mears was there at the church.
Okay. Okay. Were there any pastors or leaders at the church that you feel deserve to be remembered?
My daddy was one of the leaders. He was he was the pastor at Spring Hill Baptist for a year, a little over a year. That was the old Spring Hill Baptist on Spring Hill and Dover. He was the pastor there. Then when they built the new big church, they went educational. And he went along.
Okay. Okay. Did First Baptist do anything during the Civil Rights Movement or have any connections with the leaders or the events that happened during that time?
Not too much. Just a matter of supporting the neighbors all around to make sure that they were all okay. That was all.
Okay. Do you remember if First Baptist's services were ever on the radio, like a broadcast?
In later years, Reverend Butler had them on there a couple of times.
Okay.
But I don't remember us being on there. America then really didn't have no radio there.
So I found this interesting article about some chimes that First Baptist had. Did you ever remember this?
Yeah, they used to be in the big chapel, in the big chimney nuts on the outside of it. They did have it.
Okay. Do you remember any of the complaints that happened around that time? What do you remember about that?
I don't really remember. There were some complaints, but it was never really paid any attention. I think it was mostly the other people that had gone to other churches. They didn't like it because the chimes was so loud in the morning. But that's the only time they did them on Sunday morning. That's the only time it came out.
Okay. What are some of the most memorable guests or preachers who came to First Baptist? I think I remember hearing that Mattie Moss Clark visited. Do you remember anything about that?
The Clark sisters, Reverend, what was his name? It was a man. He had a big choir in Detroit. His choir would come out all the time.
Okay.
But most of the choirs from Detroit would come to First Baptist because First Baptist was really connected with all the big churches in Detroit. Shiloh, Second Baptist, the one on Lafayette, Reverend Franklin, all those were combined in our service.
Were there any other church buildings before the one on Isabel Street?
Of First Baptist? No.
Okay.
That's the original spot right there.
Okay. What do you remember?
And the parsonage was next door to it.
The parsonage? Okay. What do you remember about the fire that happened in 1953? It was the first fire that damaged the church. Do you have any memory of that?
My sister was working in a daycare at that time. I was working, so I really don't remember too much about it. But I remember when it happened, and I know that she had taken the children and left out. They were taking their little day out, the day that the fire had, the day that they had the fire. So she wasn't really there at the building at the time.
Okay. When it comes to the buildings of First Baptist, whether it's the sanctuary or the education building, do you know if somebody black had designed it, like a black architect had, created the plans for it? Would you know about if anything like that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Because like I said, I think the church was built like in 25, 26, something like that.
Okay.
Because I was baptized in 43.
Okay.
And the day I was baptized was about 10 of us that was baptized at the same time.
Oh, wow. So I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember if Smith Chapel, when was that founded? Do you think First Baptist predates?
First Baptist was first.
Okay.
First Baptist came first. Then it was Smith Chapel. No, it was Smith Chapel. Smith Chapel, then Second Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
They got it all mixed up. They say that Smith Chapel was the oldest, but First Baptist was the oldest.
Mm.
And then Smith Chapel.
Okay.
And Second Baptist came off of First Baptist.
Oh, so Second Baptist, which is now Cathedral of Faith, came out of First Baptist on
Right.
Isabel. Wow. Okay. Okay. Here's this, if you're interested in seeing it, that talks about after the fire had happened, the second one, they were planning to build a new sanctuary. Do you know of why that didn't happen?
They never did get enough money.
Okay.
They got the money and through, I don't know, somehow or another, it went other places than where it was supposed to go.
Mm. Here's a close-up rendering of what was supposed to be the new sanctuary.
How the church was supposed to be rebuilt.
Do you know exactly what they were planning to build? Like, what is it that I'm looking at in that rendering? Do you know?
This was going to be the educational center.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they just had the educational center just one little section, and in the basement, that's what that part was going to be.
Okay.
And this was going to be the sanctuary, so to say.
Okay.
As it is.
Okay. So they basically was just extending the education center and rebuilding the sanctuary. It looked like it was smaller than the first one, though.
It was smaller.
Okay.
Because this section here is the part that's still standing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I went by there today.
Mm-hmm. That's the part that's still standing.
Yep. So you wouldn't happen to know
that was the sanctuary.
The architect?
No.
Okay. That's a mystery that I'm still trying to solve. Who did that rendering? So, if you're comfortable sharing, every church goes through hard times. What challenges do you remember First Baptist facing?
You know what? I was young, so I really wasn't involved in financial area. So I really can't say for sure what it was.
Okay.
All I know is that when we raised the money for the new church, it disappeared all of a sudden.
Mm.
And I'm sure the ones that was in the financial area know what happened to it, but it wasn't really put out.
Okay. So I read somewhere, and I've heard, that there were incidents that happened at First Baptist that involved the police. What do you think people today should understand about what happened during those moments? If you're comfortable sharing.
I remember the shooting in the church.
Mm.
Mr. Woodson, he was a deacon, but it was on a New Year's Eve when the gun went off.
Mm.
Not that he was shooting at nobody. I think it just went off by mistake. It was New Year's Eve, and his gun went off in the church.
Mm.
But no one was injured.
Okay. If you're comfortable sharing, what do you remember about the time when the pastor passed away? How did the congregation respond?
Very upset. Which pastor? Or Reverend Butler?
Yes.
You got to get rid of him. It was a trying time because the morning that he died, we were already in service, and he never showed up. And one of the deacons went to his house, and they found him dead.
If you know when did First Baptist close, and what do you think led to the end of it?
I really think that Reverend Butler destroyed it because he had changed so many things and so many different things was going on that we weren't used to it, and people just began to drift away. and go to other churches.
Okay. Do you happen to know what other churches they went to?
Most I went to Second Baptist in Spring Hill. That was in Amity. They just spread it all over.
When you look back now, what do you think was the biggest contribution? What do you think the First Baptist's biggest contribution was to Inkster?
Helping the neighbors. They were very helpful with taking care of the neighbors and the older seniors and doing what they could for them. That was their main fire.
Okay. When you think about First Missionary Baptist now, what are you most proud of?
Being raised there and knowing so many people. I enjoyed it when I was there. Then when it began to change, I left, but I enjoyed it.
What do you want people to remember about the church 50 years from now?
That it was a great church. We had great pastors, even though the last one was corrupt. But Reverend Walden, they were really good pastors, and they supported the community.
What made you come to Gethsemane?
I was still at First Baptist, and we had raised money to pay the mortgage. And when it was time to pay the mortgage, the money had disappeared. That was Reverend Walden. The money had disappeared, and then we found out that he was using the money. Everything we were scuffling, paying these taxes and everything. Then we had lost the church, and we had moved into another church, and he wasn't paying the rent there. So I decided my tithe should go somewhere that was going to help me.
Okay. I'm researching other Black Inkster churches. Some of them no longer exist. I'm going to read the name of some of them and tell me if you remember anything. Have you ever heard of Jerusalem Baptist Church? It was, I think, Reverend Gant.
Yeah, Reverend Gant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know whatever happened to that church?
It went into Reverend Gant's. Actually, Reverend Gant's church was Gethsemane. That's where Reverend Gethsemane started at Reverend Gant's church. So that's really how that went.
Okay. Where was it located? Because I saw an address, and it's where the Penn Funeral Home is now. That's where the address came up. So do you know?
No.
It's not there?
Okay. Reverend Grant's church was on Carlisle and Harrison.
Okay.
And they're right on the corner, that big white building. That building still sits there.
Okay. You ever heard of an Irene Street Church of God in Christ? Does that sound familiar?
Church of God in Christ, was it called Irene Street? It wasn't called Irene Street. Church of God in Christ is on Harrison. That's where they originally started, on Irene, in somebody's house, in Miss Austin's house. And it was Church of God in Christ. Then it went to Harrison and Andover.
Okay.
It's a big church still there.
Okay.
It's not Church of God in Christ anymore. But that's where it went there.
Have you ever heard of St. Stephen's Baptist Church in Inkster? Does that sound familiar?
Where was St. Stephen? There was a St. Stephen, but I can't remember where it was.
Okay. Who was the pastor's name? You remember? Okay.
No. I'm trying to think of what was Reverend. What was the name of his church?
Whose?
It was on Reverend. It was on Carlisle.
That's actually my follow-up. I was going to ask you. Reverend Charles Poole had Mount Sinai Baptist Church.
Right.
And according to Gethsemane's history, when he left to found or pastor a church in I forgot what part of Michigan, Reverend Willie Davis came,
Right.
took over Mount Sinai,
Mount Sinai.
and named it Gethsemane. What do you remember about Mount Sinai? Have you ever seen it before?
I didn't go. I didn't go to those. You know, I was a First Baptist person, and I just thought it was nothing like First Baptist, so I stayed at First Baptist. I didn't visit that unless the church was going. I would visit other church, but otherwise, so far as leaving and going to visit another church, I never did it.
Okay. Is there anything else you think I should know about First Baptist, and who else should I talk to?
I'm trying to think. Now, Laura Main, you know who Laura Main is? She stayed the next block, or she lives now. She still lives that block from your granny. Let me see. That would be the only person that's living that was their First Baptist. And I think she came like in 50 something.
Okay. Anything about First Baptist you think people should remember?
It was really a great church. I enjoyed it when I was there.
Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much all I have. That's all the questions. Thank you for taking the time.
That's all right. Thank you.
Yeah.